Welcome to Mulready Minutes with Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner Glen Mulready. This is a podcast about insurance for insurance folks, risk managers, and business leaders. We'll dive deep, examine what is and isn't working, talk to leaders in the industry, and keep you informed on what's happening in Oklahoma and around the country.
Hi, this is Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner Glen Mulready. Welcome to another Mulready Minute podcast as we kick off a new year here in 2026. So we plan to do a little session here with mainly with me and my communications director, Liz Heigle, who has served all of my time here as the commissioner, but sort of a recap of 2025 and then looking ahead to 2026. So thank you for joining us.
All righty, Commissioner. So this is kind of fun. I get to interview you.
This side of the camera.
Yes, yeah. It's actually going to be a lot of fun. So I want to talk to you about a couple of things. First of all, I want to talk to you about the challenges that you faced in 2025, particularly kind of market stability, some of the continued focus on consumers, things like that. So kind of give me a look back at 2025.
Yeah, so we do have a lot to talk about with 2025, some great accomplishments, but also some real challenges. And certainly the biggest challenge for us in 2025 has been in the property insurance market, specifically with homeowners insurance, because it impacts so many people. Everybody has a home, but all homeowners across the state are experiencing rate increases and difficulties that go with that. I would add, that's not an Oklahoma issue. It is a national issue. And I think sometimes we can get sort of tunnel vision and think this is just Oklahoma, but it is not indeed. I mean, there's something when we come together at our national meetings, as you know, the NAIC, it is the topic is really homeowners insurance and property insurance across the country and how the different states are dealing with it.
Well, I want to interrupt you real quick because a lot of consumers don't understand why rates are so high. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. How did you attack that?
Yeah.
When all that was happening?
I think a big part of our role is trying to educate consumers on what is happening. And so we've talked a lot about weather. Weather, of course, generates claims. And when it comes down to what happens with insurance rates, it really is generated by a math equation, right? It's the premiums that come in and the claims that go out. And in the homeowners insurance market here in Oklahoma, and we look at, I want to make sure that's clear because I know a lot of people misunderstand that somehow we're subsidizing other states. That is absolutely not true. We look at Oklahoma-specific numbers. Those are filed with us. We have great detail on those numbers, on what is happening with each company, with their premium dollars that are coming in and the claims that are going out, and then the breakout of what is happening with those expenses that they have. So we do monitor that. Unfortunately, Oklahoma, for the last at least 5 years, has in that marketplace, the homeowners insurance market, has really been what you might say is upside down. The last 3-year average, the average homeowners insurance company, we have about 50 of them that are writing insurance in Oklahoma today. They paid out $110 for every $100 that they took in. It's called a loss ratio, right. 110%. So, any business person understands that is not sustainable.
Not making money.
Certainly not a model of and the 5-year average is better, but it still is 107. They've paid out 107 for a 5-year average. And there was only 1 year in there where that was in a positive sway. But those are the overall average numbers of homeowners companies here in Oklahoma.
So I know we got a lot of consumer calls in our consumer assistance division asking why OID can't just say, you can't raise your rates to these insurance companies. Kind of talk to me about that.
Yeah. Before I do that, though, let me circle back on something talking about what is happening with the rates. And we talked about the weather and claims, but also inflation has been a big factor that a lot of folks don't think about. I mean, if a 2x4 costs 20% more than it did 2 years ago, that is going to be reflected in the value and replacement cost of your home. As folks are looking at their insurance renewal, they're also covering a whole lot more too. That premium is up, but it also is because that replacement cost of that home has gone up substantially.
Which is so important for the consumer to know, to always look at their insurance every single year, revisit with their agent.
Coverage amount,
and make sure that they're covered properly.
And indeed, folks enjoy that. They love that their home value has gone up, but there is the other side of that too, which is, and in fact, property taxes as well, but property taxes and insurance. So
circling back to the question I asked you about why OID can't just say, sorry, insurance company, you can't submit that rate and we go forward.
Yeah. So also, in fact, I recently got a note over this weekend that, I won't go into it, that I was causing problems in someone's marriage because of the homeowners insurance rates. I got a letter about that. So, and I'm not doing enough about that. Well, Oklahoma law says that we let the free market work, as do we are use and file state, which means insurance companies can start using rates and they have to file them with us within 30 days. There's a dozen states that handle it that way. There's then another 24 or so. I'm just using some rough numbers here that use a file and use, and they, for the most part, let the market work as well. But that means they file the rates with us, and then within 30 days afterwards, they can start using those. So, the current law says that in a competitive market, I really can't do anything. If it's a non-competitive market, if we had two companies selling insurance here in Oklahoma, we could step in and determine that rates are excessive. That is not the case here with our current statutes. That said, even if we had great oversight and great ability to do that, given what I just talked about, the math of what has been happening, it would be extremely difficult to deny a rate increase to a homeowners company that has been losing money over the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, the consumer is like, but I want my premiums to be lower.
Indeed.
And so all we can tell them is go shop around, basically.
Yeah, that there's a lot of competition and they can shop around, make sure they're taking advantage of discounts that are available to them by their company, talk to their agents. There's a number of companies that have devices that can give discounts, and that insurance company may even pay for those devices, like water detection or electrical surge type things. That check with the insurance company, make sure they're taking advantage of all discounts that they can.
Okay. Now I want to kind of move over to weather in 2025. Looks like we had 106 tornadoes in 2025. We had 6 counties that reported hail in, I think it was in May. And then March was our worst wildfire outbreak. And I think the fires burned over 170,000 acres. So when you have that kind of weather and mix, that also affects.
Yeah, 100%. And, what I say a lot of times is that we're a weather state. We get more than our fair share of weather. Now, there are folks that say, well, Kansas does too, and Texas does. Indeed, they do. But if you look at different mapping, FEMA and other weather, you look at some of the mapping, Oklahoma is just in the crosshairs when it comes to weather. We had 106 tornadoes in 2025. We had the record number of tornadoes ever for Oklahoma the year before, 152 tornadoes we had. 2 weeks ago. So we're now in 2026, but there was a big national headline that Oklahoma had now overtaken Florida as the lightning state of the lead lightning state, more lightning strikes per square mile than any other state in the country. So these aren't things we want to be known for, but we can't really do much to control that. Weather is a big part. Those March wildfires, I was out there that next morning in Stillwater and Manford, and it was devastating when you drive into a neighborhood and start walking around and meeting with folks, as I was doing, and you've got 8 or 10 homes in a row, all just, smoke still trickling up, and it's nothing but ashes and a chimney standing there. It really is. It was a very sobering moment for me. I've never experienced that sort of fire devastation. Certainly been to many fires in my insurance career, but those are typically sort of one-offs. But the wildfires was extremely difficult in Stillwater, Manford, and they're still trying to rebuild from some of that.
And consumer assistance steps in and helps people with claims in situations like that if they're having difficulty pushing their claim through with their insurance company. But what are some other, as far as like the wildfires and just what can people do? Mitigation.
I think, we have, since I've come into office, as you know, we've sort of tongue-in-cheek used our tagline that Mulready says, "Get ready." And we've continued with that because it really does work across a lot of different things. So that started out as a spring thing for us, right? With tornado season and storm season coming in the spring. Are you prepared? But I think there's a lot of things. There were a couple of TV interviews this week just because of some fires here in Oklahoma City, and what can folks do with that? And so there are a number of things you can do. I would direct folks to go to our website to look for how to be prepared.
We have a lot of resources on there.
Yeah, and in the spring, do you have your go bag? Have you thought that through? Where's your tornado shelter? Where are you going to go with your family? Fires, I talked the other day about, being extremely careful if you're using any type of heaters outside your home heating system, whether that's space heaters or electric blankets even, making sure you have adequate fire extinguishers, making sure the batteries are good in your smoke alarms. Those are regularly switched out. So there are things, but just to try to be thinking through and I guess, as I like to say a lot, have a plan, no matter what that storm or season or situation is. I mean, we're staring down a big snowstorm
coming
this weekend.
Up. Yeah.
So folks need to be thinking about that beyond bread and milk.
Right. And that's kind of the usual that people do. They go out and they get their extra groceries, but mitigation and cleaning up around your property and making sure, you've secured, taking your hoses off and things like that.
Yeah, to prevent those freezes this time of year. And then with the wildfires, making sure there's nothing combustible within, you call it what you will, but 6 feet or something within your house. I know with IBHS, who studies out in South Carolina, construction, mitigation, resilience, and they have a wildfire program that they talk about. And I remember when I was there, he mentioned to me that, what we call wooden fences that attach to a house, we call those wicks.
Oh, because they will go up and
right, that wooden fence is what's going to draw you. Yeah. And so that happens a lot where a fire is going to go from a neighbor's home onto yours.
Right. Well, and they've talked about the mulch. I mean, so many people have mulch surrounding their property in their flower beds, and we don't realize how dry that gets, and it's combustible too. So, okay, next question I have for you. Looking ahead, we're already in 2026. What are some of the changes, as well, let's say focus points that you are heading up at OID?
Before I go there,
okay,
if I can, before we close out 2025 conversation, because and I have a sheet here just to make sure I didn't miss anything, but let's just talk about a couple of key things and that I'd like folks to know about. But our life insurance policy locator is one where if someone passes away, you're unsure whether there's a life insurance policy, we have a great tool to connect folks that we've been super successful with. And so go to our website, look for life insurance policy locator. You'll complete you'll redirect you to our national website, the NEIC, and there'll be a short form you'll complete. Within 90 days, you'll hear back whether there is an active life insurance policy in there. In my time in office, we have connected folks with over $200 million of death benefit.
Isn't that amazing?
That they didn't know they had.
Right.
Yeah, it really is a great success story. And so, and I might add, I talk about this a lot too, but because people then want to know, well, what if no one claims that life insurance? So the story of that is, to close that loop, when that person turns 100 years old on paper, that death benefit, that money gets turned over to our state treasurer as unclaimed property. So maybe that makes it to the beneficiary, but it could be 20 years after they passed away, Right. So great success story. We launched this past year our Strengthen Oklahoma Homes program, talking about homeowners insurance rates, and can't impact the number of tornadoes, can't impact that snow that's coming, but we can strengthen our homes. And so we got the legislature to pass some legislation. So we've now fortified over 150 homes, issued $10,000 grants out to those homes to have their roof fortified, immediately gives folks a discount on their insurance. We're seeing an average discount of over $800.
A lot of people don't know what fortified means.
Yeah, good clarification. So I mentioned IBHS, Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. They study, building resilience and building materials for wildfires, but as well for wind and for hail. And so they have a program that involves a number of different steps when you're replacing your roof that make it a fortified roof. It's a thing. And it includes the type of underlayment. It includes taping the seams of that plywood. It includes the type of nails that you're attaching those with and the type of shingles that you use. And so they do all those. And it's through our program, we will be issuing a $10,000 grant to help them pay for that, to fortify that roof. Our goal is that years from now, we're going to have a number of fortified roofs. And so when that storm blows through, the claims will be lessened that much more, and we become a more resilient state from a building construction. So that's a big success program that has been launched in March of this past year, in 2025, that we did. Every 5 years, each insurance department in our country has to be accredited by the NEIC. And so this was our time. We were up. It's a very extensive process, very difficult on our financial folks. They come into our office, a team does, and pulls files and
What are some of the things they're looking for?
They are mainly looking at all the financial analysis. And the concern is, are we overseeing our companies, our domestic insurance companies, and their financial solvency so that when that storm blows through, this insurance company isn't out of business. It doesn't.
So they can pay the claims.
They can pay the claim, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
and I don't think a lot of consumers think about that.
Yeah. But
they think
it
about
is
getting their money, but where is that money coming from?
Yeah. And it's our job to oversee those companies to make sure that happens. It doesn't do anyone good to have a low premium and then have the company out of business when they do have a claim. And so it's the biggest part of our consumer protection. And
this happens every 5 years.
Every 5 years we have to be reaccredited, yes. And so we just in December, the very end of the year, they came in September, but we received the actual official accreditation at our national meeting in December. So we're reaccredited for another 5 years without any recommendations. Often those teams come through and they might still accredit you, but then there's some recommendations, or they might have you report back on some shortcomings they may have seen. And it is their way of saying to all the other states that Oklahoma is doing it right, and you can trust the work that they do, really.
That's excellent. Okay, congratulations on that. All right, so now anything else you want to cover with?
I don't think so. I just wanted to hit on those couple things.
Okay, so now we're going to look ahead into 2026. Again, asking some of your focus points for not only you, but for the agency.
Yeah, so it clearly is still focused on what was the biggest challenge in 2025. That hasn't gone away. Okay. And so we are here staring down the next legislative session that begins in just a couple of weeks here. And so we have a legislative package to try to help in that space, in the homeowner space. There's a number of folks, I think all of us well-intentioned, including legislators, state representatives and state senators, who have filed a number of bills to try to help here. So, my concern, but hope is that we will make progress and be able to make a difference without sort of overdoing it. You see things happen in some other states, like we saw happen in California, where they're going to put a cap on rate increases.
Right.
Well,
how that's affected
consumers love that for a short period of time, but then you have insurance companies, and what happened in California was all of the major insurance companies started saying, we're no longer going to write business to California, homeowners insurance business. We're not going to write there anymore, and started basically pulling out of that homeowners market, which left a lot of people uninsured and kicked a lot of people to their state plan. And then you had, as you know, a year ago, substantial wildfires with a lot of folks uninsured and a lot of folks in that state pool, which is going to be a huge financial burden for the state of California. We do not. No,
right,
everything that we have is private.
So if something like that happened to us, if legislation went opposite way and something like that happened, we wouldn't have it.
Yeah, and so I get asked a lot, Glenn, why aren't you pushing for that? Why don't we have a state pool? And my response is because we don't have an availability issue. We have an affordability issue. People are having trouble affording their home insurance, but there is nowhere in the state of Oklahoma that an insurance company won't write. Like Texas, the whole coast of Texas, they have a state wind pool. So the homeowners insurance policies there don't cover wind. It has to be covered through this wind pool because insurance companies just wouldn't write coverage there because the risk was just too high. And so they've had to come up with a state solution. State of Florida has Citizens Property Insurance Company. It may not be now, but it certainly in the last few years has been the largest insurance company in the state. But that's a state insurance company because insurance companies would not write business in a lot of the state. We don't have that in Oklahoma. Insurance companies, I mentioned we've got about 50 companies with homeowners premium. They will write anywhere in Oklahoma. We're not having an availability issue, but we do have an affordability issue.
So let me ask you, with the legislation that we're pushing and other, legislators are pushing, how is this going to help the consumer?
Well, I think that there's a couple different things that are in the things we are pushing. A number of them are just in their experience, and that is we're trying to shorten timelines of when a consumer hears from the insurance company, when a claim gets paid.
We do get a lot of calls about that.
And when we contact an insurance company, the amount of time the insurance company has to get back to us. Now, when I came into office, that was 30 days. That was the state law. That seemed like a long time to me. So because it wasn't someone's first call, this was some level of frustration when they contact us. We went to the legislature. We got them to change that to 20 days. We're pushing this year to change that.
They get fined if they don't
They
meet
do.
that?
Yeah, if that goes beyond 20 days, they are fined.
So there is some kind of repercussion.
This year, we're looking to move that from 20 days to 14 days. So some of it is in the experience for the consumer. We have some, what we've seen in Florida. We took a look at Florida. Florida had an insurance market that was on the edge of collapse. Companies were fleeing the state, and they took the bull by the horns and made some very strong changes there. The most strong one that has had the most impact, according to the governor and to the insurance commissioner and the numbers, was some lawsuit reform that they passed. So, litigation on insurance is costly, and that comes from those premiums. There's not a separate pool of money that companies use to somehow handle litigation.
Which most of us don't know that.
That comes from your premium, right? And so when you see a big settlement or something, yay for them, but that's going to come from your premiums. And so anyways, they've passed that legislation. They are seeing, I know in the auto insurance world, it has had such a positive impact that insurance companies are refunding money back to consumers. One company just announced they're refunding over $1 billion in premiums.
Wow.
Due to the lawsuit reforms that took place there.
That's
Uber even
amazing.
has reduced their rates there in Florida because of the lawsuit reform. We have a small piece of that, and what we're trying to do is try to steer people towards mediation instead of to the court system. We've had a mediation program in place for years, but it rarely gets used because it's not mandatory. The insurance companies don't have to go to mediation.
Okay.
They can just say, nope, we're denying the claim, that's it. We want to mandate the mediation to try to keep things out of the court. But I will tell you already, since we've put that forward, we're getting a lot of pushback on that piece. Even though that's one of the pieces that has had the most positive impact in the state of Florida, that's
we're getting the most pushback here. Interesting.
The trial attorneys group do not like lawsuit reform or tort reform of any kind.
So it will be an interesting legislative session.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on from there, what else? What else do you have?
In my final year.
Yes, I know. The countdown.
I think the homeowners is absolutely will be the focus on what we can do there, and again trying to make sure we don't overfix it, right? And I believe that the best way to keep excessive profits in check, if those were there, they're not here at the moment with Oklahoma, or other type things, is a competitive free market. A dynamic competitive free market is what will drive pricing down, improve cost efficiency, encourage innovation. I'm a big believer in that. Now, some folks aren't, but I do, and I strongly believe in that. So yeah, we will. We have a lot happening with IBT, Insurance Business Transfer. Some of that, we are a national leader on that. We're the only state in the country that has completed 4 transactions.
Quick, a lot of people don't even know what that means.
Yeah, and they wouldn't. It's really in the weeds insurance-wise, right? But quickly, it allows an insurance company to purchase a piece of another insurance company. And it involves getting an independent expert in there who evaluates that and makes sure that policyholders will not be adversely impacted. And then a judge has to review that and approve that. Same thing, making sure policyholders will not be adversely impacted.
Will they know? Does a policyholder
yes,
know?
All policyholders get notification. To be clear, it's typically not a personal auto or homeowners policy. That's not typically what we're talking about. We're talking about reinsurance or large commercial or older. The very first transaction we completed, one of those policies hadn't been sold in over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
But there's liability on the books, what we call in the business a long tail. And so that does come into play. And so we've completed 4 transactions. No state in the country has ever completed one. We've got a half a dozen states that have legislation that allow it. But we're quite proud of that. And it has gotten a lot of international attention because this has been happening in the UK and
for a long time.
And Australia internationally, for quite a number of years, well over 2 decades, but not in the United States. But we're sort of breaking that.
So we're just going to keep on.
Yeah, we're kind of proud of that.
All right. So any last few things to say?
I guess I would just close out that 2025 was a good year for us, but a very challenging year for us. The Oklahoma Insurance Department has roughly 125 devoted employees We have a consumer assistance area that is answering roughly 15,000 calls every year, handling folks' questions just about their policy, as well as just helping them with a trouble claim that they have, or just frustrations they might have with not adjusters and out there as quick as they'd like them to be. But we have an area doing that. We've got folks advising, counseling folks aging into Medicare. We've got a team doing that. We've got an anti-fraud unit made up of former law enforcement officers that are chasing down fraud committed by those that we license. But we've got a very active, we've got over close to $500 million of premium tax that flows through our office, $500 million, that 55% of that goes to our police and firefighter pensions.
Most people don't know that.
No,
Yeah.
and the other 45% of that goes up to the Capitol for their general appropriations. So paying for schools and roads and bridges,
So we're doing
that
our
type of
part.
thing. Yeah. I mean, people don't realize how much flows through our office to the
Right.
benefit of our state. So,
Okay. Anything you want to tell anyone?
here's to 2026.
If you found this episode informative, please subscribe and share with your colleagues. Visit oid.ok.gov/podcast. Let us know what topics you would like to hear about. Until next time, take care. From the Oklahoma Insurance Department.